Handsome Hockey Podcast. 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 Handsome Hockey Podcast.
Handsome Hockey Podcast.
All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 39 of the Handsome Hockey Podcast. My name is Jake. We are here in the abode of
Evan.
Yes, I love it when that happens. We are in Evan's house once more, no longer in the basement because we are not suffering through the sweltering mass of death that was 2 weekends ago.
Yeah, it's only simply hot.
I'm still not totally comfortable with this, but it's okay.
Yeah, this is almost, I was going to say almost worse, but no, it's not. It's pretty comfortable.
Anything over 80 and I start to go, do we need this?
Inside, it's a little clammy though.
Yeah.
Outside, the breeze is nice.
Before we get started on hockey-related business today, I just wanted to say something quickly. Euro 2021 concluded this morning or this afternoon.
Eurovision?
No, that's forever. Euro 2021, however, the soccer tournament ended today, and it ended with Bukayo Saka, Marcus Rashford, and Jadon Sancho all missing penalties for England in the final, and England ended up losing to those who shall not be named, also known as the Italians, because they get shot by snipers every 4 minutes.
It's a sniper. I have been shot.
All three of those players happen to be black. And because of this, we saw a massive spate of racial abuse sent towards them because always.
Yeah.
This.
You know what we're especially allergic to? Racial abuse.
Yes. As an anti-racist podcast, or a podcast that attempts to be anti-racist, we would be remiss if we did not say something about this. Mm-hmm. And we've said plenty about this, I've had at least a couple of rants on this during this podcast. But if your team losing brings out your inner racism, you're a shithead and sports don't need you. You need to go away. Just stop being a shithead. Stop paying attention to sports. Read anti-racist literature and try and better yourself, but you can't come back to sports.
Touch grass, bud.
Yeah. If you tweet racial epithets or death threats, or even contact a player in a negative way ever, you're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Leave them alone. They're humans who are doing something that you can't even fathom doing.
Right.
So instead of picking up your phone with your Cheeto dusted fingertips and sending hate messages to 19-year-olds like Bukayo Saka is, how pissed off I am about this. I'm saying nice things about a player who plays for Arsenal, and I'm a Tottenham Hotspur fan. So that's how pissed I am.
He must really be hot.
You know it's bad when I'm saying think of the well-being of this gunner.
When you're crossing your EPL trade lines.
And you know what they tell you as soon as you join the EPL? Don't cross the streams. It's like frying the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Don't cross the streams. And in this case, as a podcast, we just wanted to say, in solidarity with these three players and athletes everywhere who suffer this racial abuse, we stand with you. This is some bullshit. We are tired of having to report on this, but the fact that it keeps happening means that the job of this podcast is not done. So the thing about this is all three of those guys are super young and will probably lead England to a World Cup final in a year. And then all these people will be I always was number one fan. And it's going to be actually your tweets live on forever. Guess what? We got you. There was one tweet that was this Saka kid is all right. He's going to do great things. And then 34 minutes later, it was him using the N-word, same
really?
person using. And it's just fuck you.
Yeah.
If you can't keep your racism in the bag, you can't have sports. You're just not allowed anymore. Sorry, Southern football fans. It's over. And apparently English football fans.
I mean, England is just sort of original South, isn't it?
Yeah, their hooliganism, while it makes for interesting and fun movies is not a particularly welcoming community for,
Really anyone.
for anybody, but especially the other, especially for those, traditionally marginalized and populations that are pushed to the outsides. Yeah. Well, guess what? Guess what you do with your fandom? You do the same fucking thing. End rant, but like, don't ever contact an athlete or a famous person or anybody don't contact anybody to say racist shit. Just like say racist shit to your mirror in your bedroom if you've got to say racist shit. like point the finger and like, hey, you're, I'm not going to go into it, but like say your racist shit to your own face and don't hurt anybody else's feelings with it.
I'm imagining some like piously PC person that like is actually super racist, but that just like bottles it in and just like unleashes on their mirror while like weightlifting or something.
That's perfect. Like they go out into the world and they're like super helpful and anti-racist and they just say all their racist shit to the mirror. Like,
I mean, that's complete farce, but it's funny to think about.
It's better than saying it to, the world.
This is true.
And like your spouse or partner is like elsewhere in the house cowering in fear from the hate spewing forth in the bathroom.
Yeah, that would be pretty unfortunate.
This is why we got double vanities.
You should have opted for the soundproof bathroom, apparently.
Yeah. Everybody should have a soundproof bathroom.
That's true. That is the fucking truth.
Thank you for those of you who are listening for letting me go on a non-hockey sort of spittle flecked rant. But we're going to dive into hockey now.
The Stanley Cup Finals finished exactly how we thought they would in the last episode, and Tampa Bay won convincingly, a gentleman's sweep in 5 games, taking game 1 just like they had taken most of the rest of the playoffs with a Andrei Vasilevsky shutout.
Yeah, there's something to be said about somebody who, or a team / goalie who emphatically closes things out.
Yeah, 4 straight shutouts to close out 4 different playoff series.
It's like so unreal.
And that got him the Conn Smythe, of course. He absolutely deserved it. There were a couple guys on the team that also probably could have been given the Conn Smythe in Braden Point or specifically Nikita Kucherov. But as Nikita Kucherov pointed out in his shirtless, Bud Light-fueled endgame post-conference, Vasilevsky deserved the Conn Smythe over the rest of them, and then in his opinion, a whole lot more.
All of the time that you like listen to hockey media folks, they're like, "Oh God, these player interviews are so boring. These player interviews are so boring." And then along comes a unicorn, a gift from the hockey gods.
It absolutely was
smiling upon us in the form of a drunken, shirtless Nikita Kucherov. I propose every post-game interview should be at least 3 beers deep from here on out. Coaches, refs,
the media too,
management. Yeah. Because you know what people would have done if they were 3 beers deep? They would have fucking asked Gary Bettman about the sexual assault cases against the Blackhawks.
Ron McClain needs to be 3 beers deep.
Yeah, we'll get there later. Oh boy, will we get there.
But some people are like, oh yeah, he had a couple. I'm pretty sure there was some hard stuff involved too. That's not just...
He'd been having a great time.
Yeah, that's not just 4% beers operating up there. Also, his competitive fire was completely on display. He talked shit about the Montreal Canadiens fans and how they got super excited for a single win against his clearly dominant team. And it was awesome. It wasn't like... It was good hockey shit talking. Like that's what we expect as hockey players. And I think a lot of people love about hockey is this sort of culture of just talking some good shit. And boy, did he do that, saying your finals was the last series. Like, oof.
And he couldn't even recall Marc-Andre Fleury's name.
Yeah.
while shit talking him.
Right. Number 1 bullshit. Also, forever entered into the lexicon of hockey.
Yeah, I don't think... It's not so much that he was shit-talking Marc-Andre Fleury, it's just that he was up-talking Andrei Vasilevsky. But it's definitely a little bit... It was some shade.
Oh, yeah, it was some great shade. It was some 1-800 petty. Like, that was great.
This has been my favorite thing about hockey in probably the last month, was this incident of like just pure bliss. Since that press conference, Nikita Kucherov has been absolutely living his best life,
as he should be.
There was a picture of him today in the back of a boat holding the Stanley Cup and the Vince Lombardi trophy with the caption was Tampa Bay #1. He's also wearing a shirt that says 18 million over the cap.
Yeah, apparently his agent, who he shares with, I think Vasilevsky and a couple other guys on the team, made them for them. And
yeah,
it's great. Like,
they should wear them every day for
celebrate,
the rest of their lives.
Talk some shit. Like, this is how this league gets more interesting. As Ian Mendez and Sean McIndoe were pointing out on the Athletic Hockey Show, like, Kucherov's going to get booed when he plays in Montreal this season, and that will be great.
That will be excellent. I can't wait to see like what Pat Maroon does with the cup. Like,
yeah, I mean, I'm sure a jet ski will be involved.
Oh, look, the Stanley Cup will have its own jet ski.
Pat Maroon is worthy of a talking point here, and he has now won 3 cups in 3 years on 2 separate squads, and really been a driver of the identity of each one of those squads. Also talking some great shit with his like chicken. He was calling, I think, Brendan Gallagher a chicken, and like making chicken arms and then pointing at him and then making more chicken arms. Like, that's funny.
He's the first person to win 3 straight cups since like the 80s dynasty Islanders teams. There's so much fun came out of this finals outside of the hockey, which was like, they weren't boring games. It was just like, after the first game, it just felt preordained. Like, it was just like, okay, we're just counting down the days until Tampa Bay has another cup.
It kind of did.
I'm fine with that. Like, I mean, it's Steve Yzerman built this team. Like, I'm cool with Tampa winning. Like, if people want to hate, hey, that's cool. They clearly don't care at all.
No. And as we pointed out, back when the Blackhawks did it, Tampa tried to close this salary cap loophole and got laughed at by all the other owners. So, let them be the ones to take advantage of it.
Well, they get to stick 2 middle fingers in the air, 1 for each cup. Another cool stat to come from this was Nikita Kucherov joined 2 other players in being the only people to score 30 points in back-to-back Stanley Cup playoffs.
Who are those other players, Jake?
Mario Lemieux and Wayne Gretzky. Only
were they any good?
Maybe the 2 best hockey players of all time.
You know
those guys?
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh. That's some rare air then.
I mean, well, they're second and third behind Steve Yzerman, but outside of that, like,
wait, Steve Yzerman
and they're
the
both
player,
and they're
Steve
both terrible GMs. So like,
okay, I was gonna say Steve Yzerman the player, Steve Yzerman the GM.
Both. That is rarefied air, right? Like, there's nothing, you can't shit on that accomplishment in any way, shape, or form. That's
absolutely not.
Insane. Like, I think it was Puck Soup. They went through like the last 20 or so Conn Smythe winners and like their point totals. And like the next highest was like 27 or something like that. And it's just like, wow. Like, Kucherov he's a special player. He's apparently a very special person as well.
And he's done both of these playoffs, one could argue, not at 100%.
Yeah. I mean,
physically.
Well, yeah. I mean, people tried to test how broken his hip was the entire playoffs.
Yeah,
and
God.
Like, it wouldn't surprise me if he needed another surgery.
Just knowledge of the surgery caused him to need more surgery because of how many times he was just cross-checked directly in the hip. Yeah. Like, I was rooting for Montreal, and that was kind of pissing me off. I was like, can you guys stop doing that? Like, I don't know.
I was just like, grow up, guys.
Come on, boys.
Come on. The other, and this isn't, we shouldn't laugh about this, but it's like the fact that the person involved with it was kind of making jokes about it online. On their social media presence, I think makes it okay to laugh about it.
Yeah.
We're not laughing at him.
I think all he can do is laugh about it.
Yeah, but so Brendan Gallagher, in the same day that his Stanley Cup dreams were shattered on the ice in Tampa, was also robbed. His house was robbed while he was in transit back to Montreal.
Yeah, which is crazy. I mean, athletes seem to get their houses robbed way more than I would ever surmise. You know, at least he wasn't there and you don't have a tragic Sean Taylor situation, but he takes to TikTok eating a sandwich. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes, he was eating a sandwich, like just kind of nonchalantly.
So apparently they didn't steal all his food.
It looked like a really good sandwich.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not try and ascertain the quality of the sandwich.
It looked kind of like a breakfast sando, but maybe it's some like French Canadian sort of sandwich. I don't know. It just looked delicious.
On a croissant.
Yeah, I would have eaten it like after Brendan Gallagher had eaten. I mean, like if somebody gave me one, that's not weird. But
is he just like regurgitating it for you like a baby bird? Or that one SNL bit with Will Ferrell and Chris Kattan doing that?
Oh God. We don't need to go through this again. We already survived that. Yeah. We don't really have much else to say about the Stanley Cup Finals. Like,
yeah, it happened.
Yeah, it happened. The team that should have won.
Tampa is clearly the best team.
Yes, like hands down, unequivocally. Like, I would have loved to have seen them play Colorado or Vegas and to see if that would have changed the equation at all.
Yeah, I mean, Montreal exposed Vegas somewhat, but one would argue that maybe Vegas or Colorado might be better suited to play with Tampa.
Well, even if like Vegas had come back in that series against Montreal and won, you're telling me Tampa couldn't do that, but better because they're a better team. Like,
yeah, if there are any sort of winners from all of this, I would kind of think, it's sort of Toronto because, well, they went to a Game 7 with a team that went to the Stanley Cup Final.
Well, don't tell their fans that. They don't need to hear that. But
yeah, I mean, their fans are going to do what their fans do and just be weirdo and dejected people.
They insane.
But also the Islanders. I mean, they went to 7 games with the eventual Cup champion. Like, they're always and forever going to be sort of the second tier club in New York. But next year they get a new stadium and like they have a young star growing in Matt Barzal. I think they should sign Pat Maroon as, a lucky charm.
You can't see it, but I'm touching my nose in acknowledgement of a good idea.
I mean, they don't need him. They already sort of have various iterations of Pat Maroon. Like, isn't Matt Martin basically just Pat Maroon?
Matt Martin's a better Pat Maroon.
Right. That's what
as far as of a player, but Pat Maroon is a better Pat Maroon. But I think Matt Martin's a little bit better of a hockey player at this point in his career.
Yeah, I think so too. So I don't know. I see like Islanders are going to compete next year. Barry Trotz has put them in a great place. I don't know if I have any other overall takeaways from the entire playoffs other than bye-bye NBC and maybe welcome ESPN. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll get into that later. So now we're going to dive into some heavier shit.
As we have to.
When we started this podcast, we knew that we would spend months, all of our summer months, talking about it went from like brewing to bubbling to the cauldron is overflowing to this is a full-blown like scandal in Chicago. Basically, at this point, we are a Chicago sexual assault cases podcast. And the fact that you're getting any other news out of us, you should just be very thankful.
Yeah, we've become muckrakers. And, now we're going to start just investigative reporting everything we can.
Yeah, not
really.
I have an email out to Elliot Friedman about a couple to Mark Bergevin about what he knew. And Mark Bergevin responded by saying, "Who the fuck are you?" That's a total fabrication. I did not send an email to Mark Bergevin.
I know how to do it. You say, what did you know and when did you know it, right? Isn't that what you're supposed to ask? So in the scandal unfolding in Chicago under the Blackhawks sheltering of a sexual abuser, some new developments have happened this past week in that the Chicago Blackhawks have filed motions to dismiss both of the suits brought by John Doe 1 and John Doe 2. John Doe 1 is a former player on the 2010 Cup winning team. John Doe 2 is a player from Houghton, Michigan, who was abused by this former video coach of the Blackhawks, Brad Aldrich. And the Blackhawks have made both of these motions to dismiss after some time they'd been granted to respond in the case. Sadly, after they filed this motion to dismiss the Houghton John Doe 2 suit, it seems like that one might be in some serious jeopardy. The motion to dismiss alleges that unless that they can prove there was a recommendation given specifically to the school and that it was done knowingly, which we may never actually get to discovery. So basically, unless they can prove that the Blackhawks knowingly gave an actual recommendation directly to the school for a specific job, it doesn't look like maybe the Blackhawks were breaking Illinois law in that case. If they only gave a general recommendation letter to him to be used with any job, or, what they possibly did, which is simply confirm employment like most HR savvy places do these days, the fact that they allowed him to go on to coach at a high school and abuse players there likely doesn't violate the Illinois law, and that sucks, but I think it just exposes the gross deficiencies we have with our legal system and its ability to prosecute sexual assault and harassment cases like this.
All of this comes from, the Blackhawks are obviously trying to get these suits thrown out in court, and the Blackhawks came out and said, we actually don't have a legal obligation to say anything about this sexual assault case or about these victims because we're not legally obligated by law, because there's like 3 protected groups or something like that. If Brad Aldrich had officially sexually assaulted one of these 3 protected groups, they then become mandatory reporters. But because this young hockey player doesn't fall into one of those 3 protected groups, they weren't legally obligated.
I mean, we don't know that it's a young hockey player. If we're talking about John Doe 1, the player on the 2010 team, I mean, well, this could be Marian Hossa,
well, under the age of 60, which is one of the protected groups.
Correct. Yeah. And yeah, that's the other motion to dismiss that they've put out in court was also to deal with the John Doe 1 suit. They've asserted that, they don't have duty to report the abuse because it was perpetrated against an adult, and the adult apparently is supposed to make those decisions even though they're under clear duress. And they also allege that the suit should be filed under the Illinois Human Rights Act and Illinois Workers' Compensation Act instead of in civil court like it is now. And they're arguing that the statute of limitations was only 2 years and that they have passed, which to me is kind of insane. We know that trauma takes a long time to come out sometimes, especially when it's very complicated, sometimes exists in a gray area. And a lot of, Brad Aldrich has abused 7 players to our knowledge. Only a couple of them have fully gone through the process of giving statements, pressing charges. A lot of people have wanted him to just go away and prayed that he wouldn't abuse again. And obviously he did.
Well, it's especially difficult to deal with that trauma in I don't know what a normal timeline would be, but in a timeline that fits within that statute of limitations when the team mental health doctor is telling you that it's your fault.
Yeah, right. If you're getting gaslit, that would probably, put me in a position to just think about something for 2 years before I did anything. If you don't know who to trust and you don't seek legal counsel right at the get-go when you're being abused, absolutely nobody probably has a sense to do. This, 2-year statute of limitations that they're arguing for is insane.
It speaks to where we are as a society when a professional sports franchise whom endangered the mental well-being and physical well-being of up to, if not more than 7 individuals because of their callous, malicious, and indifferent behavior towards sexual assault can hide behind legalities. I'm still hopeful that the moral court weighs out here and wins and these people lose their jobs, but it's looking like legally there might need to be some different approaches from the victims in this case.
They're definitely being put in a tough position, and we're at a stage in the case where the Blackhawks have sort of successfully punched back in a way, it seems. What's tough about these motions to dismiss is they come prior to most of discovery. So the victim's lawyer, Susan Loggins, has tons of requests for documents. She's made 31 motions for documents, and this includes meeting records. She's planning to depose 4 team employees, planning to send out subpoenas for current and former employees, and get communications between the team and the Players Association, because the Players Association was also non-responsive to this player's plight in their time of need. She's also said that her players aren't going to participate in the Blackhawks investigation because it's not truly independent. But we might never get to see these discovery documents if both of these motions to dismiss are successful. I think that maybe one of them might be and one of them won't be, and we maybe get to discovery in the John Doe 1 suit, but that's just a guess.
Yeah, the John Doe 2 suit seems to, and we are not lawyers at all, but it does seem to hinge on whether or not an actual document for that position of volunteer hockey coach in Houghton, Michigan was ever kind of given.
And it seems maybe unlikely because he did jump around to several other jobs. One for USA Hockey women's, for the women's hockey team for USA Hockey, and at Miami of Ohio, which now has uncovered a second victim that he harassed. Though he was kind of sent off the team after a 4-month stint under suspicion of unwanted touching and grooming of a player, neither of these players took the process very far, and so it kind of died on the vine in terms of an investigation, and he was never charged. The second player declined to make a statement to the police, even though the team was indicating to him that they would be supportive. And unfortunately, this parallels so many other of these types of issues in hockey and in the rest of society, where these predators are almost caught, but they escape by virtue of people thinking that they might not abuse again and they just want it to go away. And they don't want to rehash trauma in a legal system that a lot of us just don't really trust. So it's hard to say exactly how culpable the team is for not going to the police for, what is an adult. And that is a legal argument that they're making, that the adult has to make their own decisions. But they also had highly paid professionals telling this adult that it was their fault and gaslighting them into silence. And that's a through thread we see with a lot of these similar incidents too, is the people in power do all they can to maintain the status quo, which is them in power and making decisions, and everyone else kind of has to pay the consequences. So whether or not the Blackhawks are found legally culpable, whether they settle, how much they settle for, hopefully the morality of the situation is what it's judged upon, and Stan Bowman is gone, McDonough's gone, and maybe Mark Bergevin and Cheveldayoff have to answer for them too. An advocacy group called Army of Survivors, which was founded in the wake of the Larry Nassar scandal around USA Gymnastics, has officially called upon the U.S. Olympic Committee to suspend Stan Bowman from his position as GM of the 2022 Team USA men's hockey team, pending the outcome of this investigation. I have zero confidence in Stan Bowman's kind of moral compass at this point. So, I would like to see him step down from his position as GM of the Blackhawks. And it sucks because Stan seemed to be doing, an okay job in this kind of weird middling rebuild that the Blackhawks have been doing, mostly on the back of being able to draft Kirby Dach out of some sheer luck. But he needs to go. I mean, whether or not they are legally culpable or civilly culpable, we need a new leadership in Chicago that hasn't harbored a sexual predator and decided against the wishes of a team official that they go to the police.
Has Stan Bowman said anything as of yet? So we're getting the Digit Murphy treatment from Stan Bowman here. You know, it's...
You kind of understand, you know, that he probably can't say something and shouldn't, you know, for his own well-being, but from where we sit, that is incredibly damaging. And
even having I have no comment on a pending investigation, even acknowledging that it exists and is ongoing is better than just like sitting up on your high horse that you were given as a gift through being the greatest hockey coach of all time's kid. The silence, I would rather hear him come out and say this never happened and all of this is false and fabricated than hear him not say anything. Like the silence feels even more damning.
Yeah, the silence in this entire scenario has been deafening, from the NHL to the Blackhawks and now to Ron MacLean, who made the decision in his sort of annual interview of Gary Bettman not to ask him about one of the top things that fans are concerned about these days, which is the Blackhawks investigation. He caught a lot of pushback for not asking about it because most of the time he's not afraid to ask tough questions, is he not?
That's what he built his career on, was the tough questions.
And I mean, Gary Bettman kind of sucks at answering tough questions, but Ron's asked him some tough stuff before, yet pulled up this time when it was probably prudent to ask about the Chicago Blackhawks situation. And he says it was his call to the pushback. He said, you know, he made the decision not to ask the question. It wasn't something handed down from above. It wasn't off limits, he said. But similar to like what happens with the EPA and lobbyists, like there's been a sort of recapture of the media around the NHL in that rights holders are very afraid to really, you know, dig in and be critical of this league because they've done such an amazing job of like dangling this huge carrot, and all the reporters have kind of just become beholden to the league. And that's how you get, you know, softball interviews and no hard-hitting questions about the most pertinent question of the day.
Yeah, it's like, Gary, hey, Mr. Bettman, so we're going to ask you, you know, you're the commissioner of the NHL, the number one hockey league in the world, and, you know, there are significant questions we could ask you about the sport of hockey, hockey culture, what's going on in your league, this sexual assault case against one of your flagship franchises. Mm-hmm. But what are your favorite moisturizers? And if you don't have one, that's okay. We'll make it up as we go. I prefer Fatback personally, but you know, whatever you're doing, Gary, you look great.
Gary Bettman's such a shithead. I bet he loves St. Ives.
Puts on the lotion that makes you drier.
Yeah, right. Yeah, this entire situation with the Ron MacLean interview just kind of speaks to the deafening silence around all of these issues pertaining to sexual assault, sexual harassment, sexual abuse. You know, time and time again, there's so many people that just aren't willing to stick their neck out and say the right thing and do the right thing. And it's just a huge bummer that, you know, we can't have frank conversations about this because of all the legal and financial implications for some very thin-skinned rich men.
Yeah, I mean, heaven forbid they be a little bit less rich.
Right.
Yeah. Speaking of the media, the hockey media, and it's, let's just say,
failure to read the room,
inability to see anything clearly. Our newest rights partner with the league, ESPN, or the new major partner for the league, they have the ESPYs. And nobody
Wait, still? That's
Yes.
still a thing?
Nobody cares about them. Nobody watches them. Nobody gives. I don't even know if it was aired this year. It might have just been like a web series they did. I don't know.
It went straight to DVD.
I mean, ESPN's got their own problems with the Rachel Nichols, Maria Taylor thing going on.
Yeah, which is also madness. And I encourage anyone that hasn't heard about what's going on with that to dig into that.
We will not be going there.
No.
What we will be talking about is that the ESPYs, ESPN's flagship awards, the Excellence in Sports Performance Yearly. One of my nephews we got them a game for their birthday called Silly Poopy, and it's hide and seek, and the thing you seek is a turd, and it's rainbow colored, and you hit this button to start the game, and when you find it, you hit the button again and it farts for you. And the cool thing about this game is that when you're playing it, like it'll say, because it's meant for little kids, it'll be like, oh, and like I'm over here. It'll like make noises if it takes long enough for the child to find it, so they like continue to stay engaged and whatnot. But when you find it, you hit this button and it farts and does a little song, and the kids do a little dance with Silly Poopy. And that's what the ESPYs giving Patrick Kane the best player in the NHL award is a Silly Poopy.
Yeah, he's not even the best player on his own team anymore. Like,
Yes, he is.
Alex DeBrincat had
a better season, but Patrick Kane is still the best player on his team.
Maybe.
If we give Alex DeBrincat a couple more years, sure, but no. Like, I'm a big fan of Alex DeBrincat. He's a Michigan kid, like he's a Detroit kid. Like, love him, but no, he's not better than Patrick Kane as a hockey player right now.
But apparently this was a fan vote award for the ESPYs. So like that just sort of speaks to how clueless like ESPN's fans are after the channel has been devoid of hockey for the last
they were like
10 years.
I know that name from somewhere. Turns out it was a rape case, but like I recognize that name. Hit that button, and that's how Patrick Kane got this award. Was like a bunch of people like who don't know anything about hockey voting about hockey.
Also, a bunch of Chicagoans probably spammed the award because they were told like, "Hey, press this button, a free Italian beef will come out."
Well, and some sausages. Well, that's like the same way you got Jacob Slavin as the Lady Bing, because people who don't know anything about awards and hockey voted. I was the Professional Hockey Writers Association. My bad.
That was sarcasm for those that didn't catch it.
That is sarcasm. If they aren't catching the fact that 2/3 of the things that come out of my mouth are sarcasm at this point, they're probably at the wrong podcast.
Well, I had to like kind of do the math myself. I was like, oh yeah, he's joking.
Yeah. Also, don't stop listening to us. We really appreciate you. Thank you. This fan vote, like I don't know if it was really a fan vote or if that's just ESPN saying, oh wow, we really screwed the pooch on this one and we just bought the rights to hockey for 7 years. It was a fan vote. Look over here. Look at the shiny dollar. Look at the shiny dollar. Look at the shiny dollar. Kick the results out.
And my best guess, Patrick Kane is maybe like the 12th best hockey player right now.
He's top 20 for sure.
Yes, I think maybe top 15.
Maybe.
Top 1? No, it's Connor McDavid. Connor McJesus won the MVP of the NHL in unanimous fashion this year.
He had 49 more points than Patrick Kane this year.
49 in 56 games.
Yes.
So
he had almost a point per game more than Patrick Kane this year.
Right.
He's better.
And but he's Canadian and lives in Edmonton, so he doesn't exist.
Yeah. Except for the fact that he's the best player on the fucking planet right now. And there's it's like Connor McDavid, and then there's 4 dudes who are in the next group.
Yeah.
Who are phenomenal hockey players, but aren't even on that level. No. And one of them might be Sidney Crosby, and the former best hockey player in the world. So
yeah, that's true.
So yeah, ESPN, I want to say you're better than this, but early evidence suggests you're not. We'll see when hockey coverage starts next year. I love that ESPN put out this is our diverse ESPN team, and there's 2 black guys.
Yeah.
the three
One black woman.
the three or yeah, two black people, I should say. Sorry, two black people. The three Latinx folks are on the ESPN Deportes coverage. And then there's like 6 women, which is great. But they're all white except for Blake Bolden, and it's like diverse.
Yeah, I mean,
You nailed it. We got Barry Melrose though.
is he even good anymore?
No, was he ever?
That's what I
Was
like,
he entertaining? It's like he was. It's like he was like a worse dressed, lamer Don Cherry.
Yeah, he was Diet Don Cherry for ESPN for a long time,
with his
and now he's kind of
slick back
like
mullet.
stuck in the middle now between, you know, old hockey, new hockey. Like, did I see any sort of like analytics people on that list?
No.
Like, you know, that's kind of where hockey's going. Coverage is going. Like, is ESPN going to drop that ball?
ESPN's chief, or the person who is in charge of this, is on the record of saying that they want to move towards a more analytics driven coverage. They do the same for their baseball coverage,
And
which is a highly analytics driven sport.
They own Sports Science, is that right?
Sports Science, and I think there's another one that they own that is like their mega stats, like Elias Stats Bureau or something like that.
But it's about kind of bringing this all online.
Yes.
And I'm sure it'll be a process and whatnot. But starting with naming Patrick Kane your best hockey man is kind of funny and a little curious.
Step 2 is forcing in games that they are televising one person to shoot a knuckle puck every game. And in the build up for it, they'll play like a soundbite that says, "It's knuckle puck time" from like Russ Tyler. It's going to be great.
You know who's not going to be shooting a knuckle puck in St. Louis next year is Vladimir Tarasenko. He reportedly wants out, doesn't like listening to the blues anymore.
Who doesn't like listening to the blues? Happy people. Well, guess what? There fucking aren't any of those, so this is great.
Apparently, he got some bad medical opinions from their team doctor about his injuries that he's been dealing with the past couple of years. And so he had, I think it was 2 surgeries and then another surgery that like corrected these 2 prior surgeries. So he just doesn't trust kind of the team and the training staff and the doctors, and has kind of, it's a relationships thing. They have lost him, but you know, he adds to the list of stars that ostensibly are going to change hands this offseason.
In theory, yeah.
In very quick, you know, the quickest offseason that will ever happen in hockey. Shit's going to hit the fan in the next week before the expansion draft, and then between the expansion draft and the regular draft, and then the regular draft. It's going to be this weird off-season hockey Christmas, but also, journalists and those of us pretending to be journalists are going to be taxed.
As a Red Wings fan, this becomes my favorite part of the year now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, before with Ken Holland, it was just like, he's going to draft Michael Rasmussen. Cool. But now we got Stevie Y, so it's like, all right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, sorry. Steve Yzerman, GM of the Detroit Red Wings and best hockey player of all time. If ever there was a time to make it difficult to trade your stars, it would be flat salary cap time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, Tarasenko makes $7.5 million, I think, per year. Like, that's not easy to trade right now.
No.
So it's gonna take some clever work by was it Doug Armstrong is the GM in St.
Yes.
Louis, and whatever willing partner he makes, probably Ken Holland.
It I guess all depends on his price. You know, the salary is one thing. Also, Tarasenko's not made it through the last couple of seasons. He was pretty consistent with like 30 goals, and the past couple of seasons he's had like
He has 7 goals.
yeah,
in
it
the
was
last 2
3 and
years.
4 seasons. But you know, that's really injuries and then and fairly catastrophic injuries, and him taking time to get back into, you know, good playing shape from those is relatively predictable. This is sort of a divorce. Like, this is on the scale of Eichel leaving Buffalo in a way. Tarasenko was the heart and soul of this team for a long time. So I kind of feel bad for Blues fans, but the team simply mishandled his injuries. And like, I feel for the guy and hope he can find a good trade partner and landing spot. I mean, who knows? Who knows where the heck he will be? Because it's a little bit of an albatross of a contract. That is not an attractive contract to bring on. And it's not a very attractive player from output or age or injury history, unless you're really willing to take a chance. So, maybe he sits for a while and maybe then somebody gets him at a kind of bargain deal. If he goes to Tampa Bay, holy fuck.
For like $3 million a year.
Yeah, that would be.
Well, they can only keep like something like 50% of it, but still.
Sure, but like, are they going to become the Patriots of the NHL and just take everybody's also-rans and turn them into stars year after year? Like, I don't know.
Well, he also has a full no trade clause.
Right. So he's got control. He's got to want to go where he's going. But
yeah,
if you have a full no trade clause and then you ask for a trade, like,
yeah, it's like, trade me. Also, only where I want to go, which is why you never give out no trade clauses. Yeah. No 8-year deals and no trade clauses.
Yeah. So I'm going to skip ahead then.
But speaking of Russians.
Yeah. Speaking of Russians, Kaprizov has reportedly turned down an offered 8-year deal at $9.9 million average from the Minnesota Wild in search of a shorter deal that will allow him to hit the market and maybe get into the double-digit contracts in the prime of his career.
I see both sides here. Minnesota bided their time, finally got him over here, got 1 year out of him. Mm-hmm. He wins the Calder, blows up in spectacular fashion.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he's thinking he's a $10 million guy, which he's not. Not right now.
No, probably not yet.
I think 9 is actually a lot of money.
9 is a ton of money
for a guy who has 1 year in the league. And as is 8 years. If I'm the Wild, to be perfectly honest, I'm saying, you know what? A 5-year deal might not be so bad. No, he's 24. That gets him to 29.
He wants a 3-year deal.
He's not going to get a 3-year deal. But the Wild aren't going to get an 8-year deal. You sign him to a 5-year deal. That gets him to like 29, 30. Like, let him go at that point. Okay. Mm-hmm. Like, you got 6 years out of the guy, and he's 30 now, and he can go get his deal later. Like, if somebody wants to pay him $10 million a year at 30 years old, if he's earned it at that point, cool.
Yeah, if he can stay, relatively healthy between now and then and kind of keep tracking along his player growth trajectory, like baby's growth chart, he probably could be a $10 or $11 million player when he's 28 or 29. So, this is all kind of interesting posturing and a really weird situation because he's like off fishing in Russia. A funny bit in the kind of injury release post Stanley Cup final that I wanted to talk about is Jeff Petrie and his bloodshot eyes. Everyone made jokes, and the fact that the red team acquired like 3 obviously bloodied players in the course of the Stanley Cup made for lots of hilarious blood magic and witchery jokes. But apparently Jeff Petrie dealt with that all because of his broken pinky. And
I know when I break my pinky, the first thing I think is, I hope I don't get bloodshot eyes out of this.
I just like reflexively like snapped my pinky,
yeah.
Just did a
little knuckle crack.
Right, yeah. Every time you talk about broken fingers, you have to like crack your knuckles. Them's the rules.
And shake it off. You're like,
shake it off.
We cannot start talking about Taylor Swift. Like I won't be able to stop. So please move on right now.
But the insanity with Jeff Petrie is the bloodshot eyes came from resetting the broken pinky and the fact that he just like clenched up so hard that he blew gaskets in his eyes. Like he actually, popped blood vessels in his eyes from pain. Like that's some hardcore shit.
And then continued to play hockey, which requires your hands. Like that's So the most insane injury story, I think, coming out of the playoffs was that Alex Killorn got a steel rod put in his leg and was like hoping to play if they went to game 6.
Yeah, they just
After breaking it in game 2.
they tested it and just drilled the rod straight into a skate and, you know, just surgically attached a skate to his leg.
It's not even steel, it's just rebar.
Yeah.
So, you know, like this goes above and beyond like LeBron getting carried off the court crying with cramps. Like this is some insane shit. Like, and to the point where it's kind of unhealthy that we put this expectation on hockey players. Like,
it is.
You shouldn't be like, when that came out about Alex Killorn, he was like, yeah, I was hoping to play in game 6 if I could, and he was skating around the ice like with the cup afterwards. It's like, no, like
you're hurting me.
Expectation should be, you have a broken leg, you're gonna sit this one out, bud. Like,
watching him hurt.
Yeah, so let's just like maybe like put the manliness away just a little bit. Like,
yeah, I mean,
we understand you're in a sport where it's allowed for you to get punched in the face. We get it. You're tough. Like, I understand. You don't need to prove it.
I kind of like in the media that people are criticizing players for playing through ridiculous injuries more and more. Like, no, you actually don't have to do this. No, you actually don't have to do this. Like, that is a drum that has gotten louder and louder, it seems like, every year.
Yeah, it's like, your bro code is stupid.
Yeah, it kind of is. I mean, yeah, generally, you know, doctors try and triage these injuries into like, are you going to further injure yourself and jeopardize your livelihood versus can you just play through immense amounts of pain? But I'm sure that on some level, these guys aren't getting the right information all the time. Like,
it's one thing to be like, oh, I have a sprained ankle. This is going to suck, but I can gut it out. It's another thing for your leg to be broken. You know what they do if your leg breaks and you're a horse? Yeah, like, you don't need to play on it, all right? Like, just we don't need a sport to be this fucking insanely broy. Like, it's okay, like, to be injured and say you're injured. The Kraken have decided to go on a grand tour of Washington to play their preseason games, which I personally think is awesome.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I call it Tour les Old Barns.
You know, the Red Wings do a bunch of games up in Traverse City every year.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they hold their prospects camp, all that stuff up there. But
the Blackhawks only ever play at Notre Dame and outside.
Which says so much about that fucking franchise. Anyways, Chicago hockey team bullshit. Anyways, so this is a really cool idea, like a novel idea, like going out to these like what are basically WHL arenas throughout the state, and, you know, playing games. You know, it's not like they really need to drum up a fan base so much. Like, they're already Washington's team, like, you know, all this, but like the fact that they're going out to like Spokane is on the very far eastern edge of Washington, and going out there to play a game with NHLers against other NHLers, that's awesome. Like, I'm thrilled by this. And I hope it becomes something that teams do in general, like, or just like go play a game at your AHL team's barn. Like, that's cool. Like,
that is cool. I kind of wish it was like old school barnstorming, like it from
they
the
flew
Babe
it.
Ruth. No, on a train only, and you know, tons of cigars and alcohol everywhere, and it was NHLers playing like the best amateurs you have in the area.
So like Mystery Alaska.
Yeah. I mean, that's what barnstorming used to be. It was like Babe Ruth would just like go and clean up across the fucking nation playing whatever team had the wherewithal to play Babe Ruth that day.
Let's bring it back.
Yeah, I think that would be hilarious. I mean, that's also kind of, what's the league in Minnesota called? The Buttes League? Or no, the off-season NHLers plus friends and college kids in unofficial league.
Shady Grove?
No. It's got some obnoxious hockeyism name.
Oh, my joke was supposed to be Bohemian Grove. Sorry.
Yeah, you got it. I knew what you were referring to.
No, but
Bohemian Grove is always good for a good joke.
Now I have to cut this whole shit then.
But as you pointed out, the Kraken will play their first preseason game in Spokane, Washington versus Vancouver Canucks on September 26th.
Yeah, it's super cool. By the way, to find Bohemian Grove, I Googled rich white people Grove.
Isn't there this whole like homoerotic angle to Bohemian Grove too?
Oh, absolutely.
Like that was how J. Edgar Hoover like
I've seen
put it
True
over
Detective too, so you know that shit's going on.
The Kraken are going to play in Kent and Everett outside of Seattle, and then in October open at home at their Climate Pledge Arena, which is by Amazon. In October,
Jeff Bezos Memorial Arena when he doesn't make it back from space.
Well, that's how he's laundering the billions that he says are fighting climate change. Like it's just this arena.
Yeah, he just built an arena.
No, he rehabbed
arena.
Rehabbed the key arena.
Yeah. Eat the rich. I can't wait to figure out how tasty Jeff Bezos is. Find us on Amazon Podcast.
Kraken tickets go on sale at noon on July 16th.
Now, I'm thrilled that the Kraken are coming in. It's going to be an outstanding experience. If Vegas is any, and I'm not talking about like the success Vegas has had, but just like the atmosphere and the vibe of the team,
right?
Outside of their social media, which is like kind of meh. Like,
the vibe of the Vegas, like I don't think you can recreate that in Seattle,
right? No, like it's going to be a very different climate, shall we say?
I see what you did there.
That works on so many levels.
Yeah.
But I hope that like the excitement and the, this like the veracity of the fans in Seattle, echoes that, like the loudness. Like Vegas already has one of the loudest barns in the NHL. Mm-hmm. And it would be incredible if Seattle could kind of replicate that.
I hope that Seattle doesn't replicate their ticket prices, though, because the ticket prices
be even worse.
The ticket prices in Vegas are ridiculous. I mean, I don't know. I like our.
What about Seattle says this will be cheap or affordable?
You're right.
It's like San Francisco North. So yeah, it'll be pretty fucking wild to see hockey in Seattle, in the Pacific Northwest, that is NHL level. And we'll be up there at some point. We'll come back with a report that says, well, this would be cooler if it was in Portland. But I think other than that,
Winterhawks games made me sad now.
No. This is a perfect time to end this shit.
But yeah, I'm super stoked too. Like, I would love to meet Chanel, like their diversity director.
Yeah.
I've had some interactions with her online and would love to meet, one of the more original hires in what the NHL, what the newest NHL franchise is trying to trailblaze in terms of, accessibility and interest from different groups. Like, I'm just 100% all around stoked for the Kraken. If Chicago continues to piss me off, like, I'll just change my fandom and call the fandom register and have it transferred.
It'll be much easier to be your friend if you were a Kraken fan.
So we could both talk shit about the Blackhawks.
Yeah.
I mean,
to be fair, we both already talk shit about the Blackhawks, but at least it won't hurt you. Thanks for listening to us, everybody. Last week, I just bumbled through the end of the episode, so I'm just going to say thanks for listening to us. We really appreciate it. If you are listening to us on like Apple or Spotify or any place that allows you to follow or download or, subscribe.
Or give us a review.
Please do so. That would be incredible. It's super helpful for us. You can find us all over the internets. We are at handsomehockey.com as our website. Handsome Hockey Podcast on Instagram, at Handsome Hockey on Twitter. Or you can email us any comments, complaints, concerns, praise. That's less likely, but if you have any, to handsomehockeypod@gmail.com. You can also find us at our Facebook page. It's just Handsome Hockey.
Obviously, you're listening to us somewhere, but we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Overcast, Red Circle, and YouTube.
Thanks for listening, everybody, and stay handsome.
Restez beau, tout le monde.